Why? Good morning. We are here today on this fine morning. And by fine, I mean I'm still sleepy. The tea hasn't kicked in yet. Call me Bina the way I'm drinking tea. We're on chapter 3 now, which I think is kind of crazy, to be honest. How did we get here? Who let us get here? I can't believe we got this far. We have, I don't know how many chapters we have left. I think 5. We have 1, 2, 3. This is the 3rd chapter. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we have 5 chapters left after this, so we're like almost halfway there. I don't know what to do once we finish reading DEMIAN. I'm not even gonna lie. But that's besides the point. I hope you guys are doing good today. Me personally, I've been awake for like an hour, which is crazy, but I have said absolutely nothing in an hour. Holy shit, chapter 3, Kanto 3. I think this is, the funny thing about that is that I think this is exactly the chapter when everything like goes to shit for Sinclair. And he just ruins his life a little bit, and he just kind of like dies a little, and he just isn't having a good time. So I think that makes sense for chapter 3 and Kanto 3 to coincide with each other like that. So yeah, I was going to spend the first part of this making the thumbnail, but then I ended up making the thumbnail within like the time of the starting soon screen. So now there's a thumbnail. Isn't that great? Let me see if it updated. I don't know if it actually updated. Let's look at it. If it didn't, that would be really awkward. Oh, it did update. Okay, cool. But yeah, here we are today on this fine evening. Yippee, we're here. We are. Okay. I guess we just kind of go for it. Once you finish DEMIAN, you can try out the brand new game by Kazutaka Kodoka with over 99 endings. Oh my gosh. Whoa. If only I had the money to buy it. You know what I need money for as well? The freaking hero commission. Not the hero commission from like MHA, but the hero commission for like Hero the song, and I need to commission art for it. I found a person. I just don't know if they'll accept my request. So hopefully they do. Fingers crossed. It's gonna be my first time commissioning something with multiple expressions, so I hope that like works out. I need to like actually submit the form literally later today after stream probably. So yeah, bro, the rupture nerf. What if you played Nubby Numbers Factory? I could play that, but you know what else I could play? My Friend Peppa Pig. What else? I think I have like My Little Pony games on my Steam wishlist. But like ironically, trust, they are ironic. I have My Little Pony, A Maritime Bay Adventure. Ooh guys, My Little Pony, A Zephyr Heights Mystery is 40% off. So instead of paying $39.99, you get to pay $23.99. And the reviews, they are overall very positive. Therefore, we should all play My Little Pony, A Zephyr Heights Mystery. Unironically, what if I looked at the game? I can't afford it, but it's not loading anything. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay, Steam. You can have your moment. You can have your moment, Steam. I see how you are, Steam. You cringe lord. Okay. That's besides the point. We're here reading DEMIAN. I'm so excited to like stop every 5 seconds to either gag or drink water or both. Okay. I could describe scenes of my childhood, spent in peaceful security at the side of father and mother, relate how I passed this period of my life, playing contentedly in the midst of surroundings brightened by love and tenderness. But others have done that. I am only interested in the steps I took in life in order to attain self-realization. All the pretty resting places, happy isles, and children's paradises, whose charm is not unknown to me, I leave lying behind me in the shimmer of a distant horizon, and I have no desire to set foot there again. For that reason, I will speak, so far as I intend to dwell on the period of my childhood, only of new events which overtook me, of what impelled me forward, enabling me to throw off my shackles. These impulses always came from the other world. They always brought fear, coercion, and a bad conscience in their train. They were always of a revolutionary tendency and a danger to the peace in which I would willingly have been allowed to remain. Oopsie. There came the years in which I had to discover anew that there was within me an instinct which had to lie close and concealed in the bright world of moral sanction. As to every man, the slowly awakening sense of sex came to me as an enemy and a destroyer of something forbidden, as seduction and sin. What my curiosity sought to know, what caused me dreams, desire, and fear, the great secret of puberty, that was not at all in keeping with the guarded happiness of my peaceful childhood. Just say you're going through puberty, bro. I did as everyone else. I led the double life of a child who is yet a child no longer. My conscious self lived under the conditions sanctioned at home. It denied the existence of the new world whose dawn glimmered before me. But I lived as well in dreams, impelled by desires of a secret nature, upon which my conscious self anxiously attempted to build a new fabric, as the world of my childhood fell in ruins about me. Like almost all parents, my own did nothing to help the awakening life instincts about which not a syllable was uttered. They only aided, with untiring care, my hopeless attempts to deny the reality, and to continue my existence in a childlike world which was ever becoming more unreal and more mendacious. I do not know whether parents can do much in such a case, and I make mine no reproach. It was my own affair to settle my difficulties and to find my way, and I carried through the business badly, like most of those who are well brought up. Every man passes through this difficulty. For the average person, this is the point in his life where the demands of his own life come most in conflict with his surroundings, where the road forward has to be attained through the bitterest fighting. Oopsie. For many people, this is the only time in their lives that they experience the sequence of death and rebirth that is our fate, when they become conscious of the slow process of the decay and breaking up of the world of their childhood, when everything beloved of us leaves us, and we suddenly feel the loneliness and deathly cold of the universe around us. And for very many, whoopsie, this pitfall is fatal. They cling their whole life long painfully to their irrevocable past, to the dreams of a lost paradise, the worst and most deadly of all dreams. Haha, talking about dreams? No wonder he gets along with Don Quixote, eh? But to return to the story. The sensation and dream pictures in which the close of childhood presented itself to me are not important enough to be described. The important point was that I was once again conscious of the existence of the dark world, the other world. What Frank Cromer had once been to me was now present within myself. And so, from the outside as well, the other world once more gained power over me. Several years had passed since my affair with Cromer. That dramatic and guilty time of my life lay far behind me at that time and seemed to have passed like a quick nightmare into nothingness. Frank Cromer had long since disappeared from my life. I scarcely gave it a moment's thought if I chanced to meet him. But the other important figure in my tragedy, Max DEMIAN, never entirely disappeared from my life. However, for a long time he stood on the far horizon, visible but not affecting me. Only by degrees he approached me again, and I came once more under the ray of his power and influence. I will try to recollect what I know of Damien in that period. Perhaps for a year, or longer, I did not have a single conversation with him. I avoided him, and he in no wise forced himself on me. Once or twice, when we met, he nodded to me in friendly greeting. Then it seemed to me at times that there was a note of scorn or ironical reproach in his friendliness, but that might only have been my imagination on my part. My relation with him, and the strange influence he had exercised over me, were as if forgotten, by him as well as by me. I try to recall his fate. As I recollect him, I see that I was conscious of his existence after all, and took notice of him. I can see him going to school, alone or with some of the other big boys. I see him walking among them like a stranger, among them, like a stranger, lonely and still like a celestial body, enveloped in a different atmosphere and subject to his own laws. No one liked him. He was intimate with no one, except his mother, and his relations with her did not seem like those of a child, but those of a grown-up person. The masters left him as much as possible in peace. He was a good pupil, but he did not go out of his way to please them. From time to time we heard, in gossip, of a word, a comment or a retort he had made to a master, and which left nothing to be desired in the way of blunt challenge or irony. I call him to mind as I close my eyes, and I see his picture emerge. Where was it? Ah, now I have it again. It was in the street, in front of our house. There, one day, I saw him standing, a notebook in his hand. I saw that he was drawing. He was drawing the old crest with the bird over the door of our house, and I stood at a window, concealed behind a curtain, and gazed at him. I saw with astonishment his attentive, cool, bright features turned to the crest, the feathers of a man, of a research worker, or an artist, superior and full of willpower, oddly bright and cool, with knowing eyes. And again I can see him. It was a little later in the street. We had come out of school and were all standing around a horse that had fallen down. It lay, still harnessed to the shaft, in front of a peasant's cart, and sniffed the air pitifully with open nostrils, while blood flowed from an invisible wound so that the white dust in the street darkened as it became slowly saturated. As I, with a feeling of nausea, turned my gaze away, I saw Damien's face. I know this part, guys. You guys are not ready for the part. You guys are not ready for how Sinclair describes Damien here. Okay, this is your warning. He had not pressed forward. He stood furthest back of all, rather elegant, quite at ease. He was proper to him. As his gaze seemed to be directed at the horse's head and expressed again that deep, quiet, almost fanatical and yet calm attentiveness. I could not resist watching him some considerable time, and I remember feeling, though quite unconsciously, that there was something very peculiar about him. I saw Damian's face. I saw not only that he had not the face of a boy, but that of a man. I saw still more. I thought I saw or felt that it was not the face of a man either, but something else besides. There seemed to be also something of the woman in his features, and particularly it seemed to me for a moment, not manly or boyish, nor old or young, but somehow or other 1,000 years old, not to be measured by time, bearing the stamp of other epochs. Animals could look like that, or trees, or stones. I did not realize that precisely. I did not experience the exact sensation which I, a grown-up person, am now describing, but what I felt then approximated in some way to what I have just related. Perhaps he was beautiful, perhaps he pleased me, perhaps even he was repugnant. I could not then determine. I saw only that he was different from us. He was like an animal, or a spirit, or a picture. I know not what he was like, but he was different, inconceivably different from us all. Like, who puts that much energy in describing a guy looking at a horse? Sinclair does, apparently. I don't know why. He just does. Ahem, water. My reminiscence tells me nothing more, and perhaps even what has been described has arisen, in part, from later impressions. Until I was several years older, I did not come into close contact with him again. Contrary to custom, Damian had not been confirmed with the boys of his year, and in consequence, fresh rumors concerning him were set afloat. In school, they were again saying that he was really a Jew, or no, a heathen, and others pretended to know that he and his mother professed no religion, or that they belonged to a bad sect in mythology. In connection with this, I seem to remember that he was suspected of living with his mother as with a mistress. Presumably, the facts were that he had been, up to that time, brought up without any denominational creed, and that it was enough thought that this might be disadvantageous for his future career. In any case, his mother now decided after all to allow him to be prepared for confirmation, 2 years later than the boys of his own age. Hence it came about that for months he was my classmate in the confirmation class. Truly, this is the yaoi of all time. It is, like, why has bro dedicated 5 whole pages just to describing who Damian is? Like, dude, we get it. He's a guy that you think about. Like, we get it, bro. We get it. For a time, I kept out of his way. I did not want to have anything to do with him. Too many mysterious rumors had become attached to his name. But above all things, I was worried by a sense of obligation, implanted in me since my affair with Cromer. And just at that time, I had enough to do with my own secrets, for the confirmation class coincided with the period when I was definitively enlightened on matters of sex, and in spite of my goodwill, my interest in the pious instruction was on that account greatly diminished. The things of which the clergyman spoke lay far from me in a still, sacred unreality. They may have been quite beautiful and valuable, but in no way real and stirring, as were in the highest degree of these other things. The more indifferent I became, under these conditions, to our spiritual instruction, the more was my interest drawn towards Max Damian again. Something or other seemed to unite us. As nearly as I remember, it began in class early one morning, while the light was still burning in the schoolroom. The clergyman taking the confirmation class happened to be talking about Cain and Abel. I hardly paid any attention. I was sleepy and scarcely listened. Then with raised voice, the clergyman began to speak fervently of Cain's sign. At this moment, I felt a sort of contact or exhortation, and looking up, I saw Damian's face turned toward me from a row of desks in front with a bright speaking look, which could have expressed scorn as much as seriousness. He looked at me for a moment only, and suddenly I was listening intently to the clergyman's words. I heard him speak of Cain and the mark on his forehead, and suddenly I felt deep within me the knowledge that the story could have a different signification, that it could be looked from another view, that it was possible to be critical. From that instant, the bond of communication between Damian and myself was again established. And oddly enough, scarcely had this sense of a certain solidarity between us presented itself to my mind, that I saw it transferred as if by magic from the ideal world to the world of space. I did not know whether he had been able to arrange it himself, or whether it was pure chance. At that time, I believed firmly in chance, but a few days after I noticed Damian had suddenly changed his pace and was now sitting directly in front of me. I recollect still how pleasant it was, in the midst of the miserable workhouse atmosphere of the overcrowded schoolroom, to sense the delicate, fresh aroma of soap from his neck in the morning. Who says that? Who says that? Hi! I just gambled on my lunacy and got Chief Butler. Good job? Question mark? I'm sorry? Question mark? Both? Question mark? Exclamation point? Exclamation point? Exclamation point? Question mark? Just include all the punctuation ever. We're reading Damian. And so far, Sinclair has spent 5 pages dedicated to explaining how Damian is. Why? I don't know. He just is crazy like that. Like, I recall how pleasant it was to sense the delicate fresh aroma of soap from his neck in the morning. Like, okay, really normal thing to say. Why? Damn, he even noticed the scent. That's crazy. Right from like the back of his neck too? Like, okay, dude. A few days later, he had changed again and now sat next to me, and there he stayed, occupying the same place through the whole of that winter and spring. Morning lessons had quite changed. They were no longer sleepy and boring. I looked forward to them. Sometimes we both listened to the clergyman with the greatest affection. A glance from my neighbor would suffice, calling my attention to a strange story or a peculiar text, and another glance from him, a very decided one, acted on me as an admonition, arousing criticism and doubt. Very often we were bad pupils and heard nothing of the lesson. DEMIAN was always courteous towards masters and schoolfellows. I never saw him commit a schoolboy prank, never heard him laugh out loud or talk in class. He never drew on himself the master's blame, but noiselessly, rather by signs and glances than by whispered words, he knew how to let me share in his own occupations. These were, in part, of a peculiar nature. Just peculiar nature. Bro really likes using that word, that phrase, peculiar nature. Okay, Sinclair. Whatever you say, Sinclair. Let me drink water. Wow, sippity sip. Ahem. For instance, he told me which of the fellows interested him, and in what manner he studied them. He judged many of them with accuracy. He used to say to me before the lesson, "When I signal to you with my thumb, so-and-so will look round at us, or will scratch his neck," etc. Then during the lesson, when I scarcely gave a thought to what he had told me, Max would attract my attention by suddenly bending his thumb. I would look up quickly at the boy already designated, and every time, as if attached to a wire, the fellow would make the gesture required of him. I bothered Max to try this on the master, but he did not want to do it. But once, when I came into class and told him I had not done my preparation, and that I hoped the clergyman would not question me that day, he helped me. The master looked round for a boy to recite a portion of the catechism? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Catechism, and his roving eye rested on me. He approached me slowly, stretched out his finger in my direction, and already had my name on his lips. But suddenly he became absent-minded or uneasy, put his hand to his collar, stepped up to DEMIAN, who looked fixedly into his face. He seemed to want to ask him something, but he turned away, to our surprise, coughed a little, and put his question to another boy. These jokes amused me very much, but only gradually did I notice that my friend frequently played the same game with me. It would happen that on my way home from school, I had suddenly the feeling that DEMIAN was a little way behind me, and when I turned around, there he was, sure enough. "Can you really make another person think what you want them to?" I asked him. He gave me information on the subject readily enough, quietly and pertinently, in his grown-up manner. "No," he said, "that can't be done. That is to say, one hasn't a free will, even if the person acts that way. Neither can the other person think as he will, nor can I make him think what I want him to. But you can observe someone well, and then you can say fairly exactly what he thinks or feels. In this way, you can generally predict what he will do the moment after. It's quite simple, but people merely do not know it. Naturally, it requires practice. To take an example from the butterfly world, there are certain species of moth. Why did I say? I was going to say aspects instead of species for some reason. I don't know why. On which the female is much rarer than the male. The moths reproduce like other animals. The male impregnates the female, who then lays the egg. Suppose you have in your possession a female of this type of moth. Naturalists have often made the experiment. Then the male moths fly in the night to this female. They even make a flight of several hours' duration. Think of it. For many miles around, all the males are conscious of the whereabouts of the only female moth in the district. People have tried to explain that, but it is not easy. Moths must have a sense of smell, or something like it, which allows them to pick up and follow an almost imperceptible scent, like a good hound. You understand? There are such things, nature is full of them, and no one can explain them. Now I draw the conclusion that if among this class of moths the females were as abundant as the males, then these latter would not have such a refined sense of smell. They have it simply because they have been trained like that. If an animal or a man concentrates his whole attention and his whole willpower on a certain thing, then he attains it. That's all. And it is just the same as what you have asked me. Observe a man sufficiently well, and you will know more about him than he does himself. Bro just compared evolution to observation, which is kind of funky, but okay, Mr. Max DEMIAN. It lay on the tip of my tongue to mention the word mind reading, and so to remind him of the scene with Cromer, now relegated to such a distant past. But the odd thing between us both was that neither he nor I ever made the slightest reference to the fact that several years ago he had intervened so decisively in my life. It was as if formerly there had been nothing between us, or as if each of us reckoned that the other had forgotten the affair. It even happened once or twice when we were together that we met Frank Cromer in the street, but we exchanged no look, neither did we speak of him. But what has that got to do with willpower? I asked. You said there is no such thing as free will, and then you said one only had to concentrate one's will on something to be able to attain one's ends. That doesn't agree. If I am not master of my own will, then I can't direct it here or there as I wish. A good question, he said, laughing. You should always ask questions, you must always doubt. But the explanation is very simple. If a moth, for instance, wants to concentrate his willpower on a star or something like that, he can't do it. Only, he doesn't try. He seeks only what has sense and value for him, satisfies his needs. He gets what he absolutely must have. And it is just there that the unbelievable succeeds. He develops a marvelous sixth sense that no other animal besides him has. People in our position have more elbow room, certainly, and more interest in an animal. Oh my god, I lost my place. But even we are confined to a comparatively small space, beyond which we cannot go. To be sure, I can imagine this or that, or make myself believe that I absolutely want to get to the North Pole or somewhere, but I can only carry that out and wish it strongly enough when the desire lies right in myself, when my whole being is really filled with it. As soon as that is the case, as soon as you try to carry out an inward command, then you succeed, then you can harness your will as you would a good nag. If, for instance, I resolved that our good Mr. Parson shall not wear his spectacles for the future, then that wouldn't work. That is merely play. But when last autumn I had the fixed intention of getting myself moved to another desk, I succeeded. Someone suddenly arrived who came before me in the alphabet and who up to then had been ill. Because someone had to make room for him, it was naturally I who did it, because my willing it had made me ready to seize the opportunity. Yes, I said. That seemed to me very strange at the time. From the moment we began to get interested in one another, you managed to get nearer and nearer to me. But how was that? You did not immediately take place next to me. For a few lessons at first you were sitting in the row of desks in front of me, weren't you? How did that come about? It was like this. I wasn't quite certain where I wanted to go when I wished to move from my first place. I only knew that I wanted to sit further back. It was my wish to move towards you, but I was not conscious of this at the time. Simultaneously, your own will was working with mine and helped me. It was only when I sat in front of you that I realized my wish was only half fulfilled. I noticed that really I had desired nothing else than to sit next to you. But on that occasion, no newcomer arrived. Bro is manifesting. Bro just invented manifesting in the year 1900 something. Oh, Damien, my favorite. Is there like a word for like the girlies who are super into manifesting? My favorite, shifter. Is that what they are? Like, I know shifting and manifesting are like different. Blah blah. Potato potato. They're basically the same thing, right? Is that what Damien is? Is Damien our first recollection of a shifter? Of a modern day definition of a shifter? He could be. At least the first like German recollection question mark? I don't know what he is. Not even Sinclair knows what he is. I don't know if Damien knows what he is either. No, but then I simply did what I wished and sat next to you without hesitation. The boy with whom I changed places was simply surprised and let me do it without further say. And the person indeed noticed that once a change had taken place. In fact, whenever he looks at something that worries him secretly, that is to say, he knows my name is Damien, and that something must be wrong that I, whose initial is D, am sitting back there among the S's. But that does not penetrate his consciousness because my will is against it, because I prevent him again and again from becoming conscious of it. He notices now and then that something is wrong. He looks at me and begins to study the question, the good fellow. But I have a simple means at my disposal. I look at him very, very fixedly in the eyes. Hardly anyone can bear that. They always get restive. If you want to get something out of a person and you fix him unexpectedly with your eyes, and if he doesn't get restive, then give it up. You won't get anything out of him ever, but that happens seldom. I know only one person with whom this trick won't help me. Who is that? I asked quickly. He looked at me with eyes somewhat closed, as his fashion was when he meditated. Then he looked away and gave no answer, and in spite of my lively curiosity, I could not bring myself to repeat the question. But I believe he was referring to his mother. He seemed to live on very intimate terms with her, but he never spoke about her, never invited me to his house. I scarcely knew what his mother looked like. Haha. Interesting area to have a page break. I know what he is. Rainbow flag. Both of them, rainbow flag. We got 1900s yaoi. Ahem. Several times I attempted to imitate his example by concentrating my willpower on something so firmly that I would have to attain it. I had desires which seemed to be sufficiently pressing, but nothing came of it. I could not bring myself to talk matters over with Damien. I should not have been able to make him understand what I wanted. He did not ask either. My faith in matters of religion had meanwhile suffered many a breach. Yet in my manner of thinking, which was entirely under the influence of Damien, I was to be distinguished from those of my schoolfellows who professed an entire disbelief. There were a few such who let occasional phrases be overheard, to the effect that it was laughable and unworthy of man's dignity to believe in a god, and that stories such as those of the Trinity and the Immaculate Conception of the Virgin Mary were simply a joke. It was disgraceful, they said, that such rubbish was peddled about today. This was by no means my way of thinking. I am tripping over all my words. This is a long paragraph. Where are we? Even where I had doubts, the whole experience of my childhood taught me to believe in the efficacy, oh my god, of a godly life such as that led by my parents, which I knew to be neither contemptible nor hypocritical. On the contrary, now as before, I had the greatest reverence for the spirit of religion. Only DEMIAN had accustomed me to consider and explain the stories and articles of belief from a more liberal and more personal point of view, a point of view in which fantasy and imagination had their share. At least, I always took great pleasure and enjoyment in the interpretations he suggested to me. To be sure, much seemed to me too crude, such as the affair of Cain. And once, during the preparation for confirmation, I was terrified by a conception which, if that were possible, seemed to me even still more daring. The master had been speaking of Golgotha. The biblical account of the passion and the death of Christ had, from my earliest years, made a deep impression on me. As a little boy, on such days as Good Friday, after my father had read out to us the story of the Passion, I had lived in imagination and with much emotion in Gethsemane and on Golgotha, and in that world so poignantly beautiful, pale and ghost-like, and yet so terribly alive. And when I listened to the Passion according to St. Matthew by Bach, I felt the mystical thrills of the dark, powerful, mysterious world of passion and suffering. I find in this music, even today, and in the Actus Tragicus, the essence of all poetry and of all artistic expression. At the conclusion of the lesson, DEMIAN said to me contemplatively, "He speaks in paragraphs! What is wrong with him? Like, he has not once spoken normally." Where are we? Page 74. Page 74. Okay. They were just roommates, said by Cromer. Cromer looking at these two like, I can't believe I got bullied by these two out of bully. He got bullied out of bullying Sinclair, but no, he didn't even necessarily get bullied. He just got manifested into not bullying Sinclair anymore, which I think is crazy. There's something in this Sinclair which I don't like. Read through the story, consider it. There's something there which sounds insipid. I mean this business of the two thieves. It's sublime, the three crosses standing side by side on the hill. But what about the sentimental story of the honest thief, which reads more like a tract? First, he was a criminal who had perpetrated crimes, and God knows what, and now he breaks out in tears and is consumed by feelings of contrition and repentance. I ask you, what's the sense of such a repentance 2 steps from the grave? It's nothing but a real parson story, mawkish and mendacious, larded with emotion, and having a most edifying background. If today you had to choose one of the two thieves as your friend, or if you considered which of the two you would sooner have trusted, it would most certainly not be this weeping convert. No, it's the other, who's a real fellow with plenty of character. He doesn't care a straw about conversion, which in his case can simply mean nothing more than pretty speeches. He goes his way bravely to the end, without being such a coward as to renounce the devil in the last moment who up to that point has had to help him. He is a character, and in biblical history people of character always come off second best. Perhaps he's a descendant of Cain, don't you think so? And they were roommates. Just, roommates, just talking about, the Bible. They're just, sons of God. Totally. I was dismayed. I had believed myself to be quite familiar with the story of the crucifixion, and now I saw for the first time what little personal judgment I had brought to bear on it, with what little force of imagination and of fantasy I had listened to it and read it. DEMIAN's new ideas, therefore, were quite annoying, threatening to overthrow conceptions, the stability of which I believed it necessary to maintain. One could not deal with anything and everything like that, especially not with the all-holiest. As always, he noticed my opposition immediately, even before I had spoken a word. I think I also, even when I was reading the book on my own, back in the day, I think even I was like, why does he, speak so much? Because I vaguely, these feelings are vaguely familiar. These feelings of, oh my god, he says so many words. Vaguely familiar, and vaguely kind of funny. I won't even lie. I know, said he in a tone of resignation. It's the old story. Everything is alright until you're serious about it. But I'll tell you one thing. Something. This is one of the points where one can clearly see the shortcomings of this religion. The fact is that this God, of the old and of the new dispensation, may be an excellent conception, but he is not what he really ought to be. He has everything that is good, noble, fatherly, beautiful, sublime, and sentimental certainly, but the world consists of other things which are simply ascribed to the devil. All this part of the world, a good half, is suppressed and hushed up. Just the same as they praise God and the Father of all life, but pass over the whole sex life, on which all life depends, and declare it to be sinful and the work of the devil. I have nothing to say against honoring this God Jehovah, nothing at all, but I think we should reverence everything and look upon the whole world as sacred, not merely this artificially separated official half of it. We ought then to worship the devil as well as God. I should find that quite right, or we ought to create a God who would embody the devil as well, and before whom we should not have to close our eyes when the most natural things in the world take place. Contrary to his custom, he had become almost vehement, but he smiled again immediately and pressed me no further. But in me these words encountered the riddle of my whole boyhood, which I hourly carried with me, but of which I had never spoken to anyone. I have an internal monologue, but even I don't internal monologue this much. Like, yeah, he's not even internal monologuing, he's like external monologuing. Like, why is he speaking in, like, essays? Bro is speaking in research papers, but the researcher is himself. Well, I mean, well, duh, that's how research papers go. But like, you know, bro says a lot of words. But in me these words encountered the riddle of my whole boyhood, which I had hourly carried with me, but of which I had never spoken to anyone. What DEMIAN had said about God and the devil, about the official godly world, and the suppressed devil's world, that was exactly my own idea, my own myth, the idea of the two worlds or two halves of the world, the light and the dark. The realization that my problem was a problem of humanity as a whole, of life and thought in general, suddenly dawned on me. And this recognition inspired me with fear and awe as I suddenly felt to what an extent my own innermost personal life and thought were part of the eternal system of great ideas. That was a sentence. The realization was not joyful, although it confirmed my mode of thought and made me happy to a certain extent. It was hard and tasted raw, because a hint of responsibility lay therein, telling me to put away childish things and to stand alone. I told my friend, the first time in my life I had revealed so deep a secret, of my conception of the two worlds, a conception which had been formed since the earliest years of my childhood. He at once saw that I was in thorough agreement with him, but he was not the kind to make the most of this. He listened with greater attention than he had ever given me, and he looked me in the eyes until I had to turn away. I again noticed in his look this odd, animal-like timelessness, this inconceivably old age. Modern adaptation where they're American and Sinclair calls DEMIAN a yapper. He looks at DEMIAN and he's like, can you like explain this in English? And DEMIAN like sighs and he's like, basically, it's all Sigma. And Sinclair is like PogChamp faces. DEMIAN is making Sinclair contemplate his boyhood. Interesting development we got going on here. Am I right? Okay, yeah. No, I'm not. Maybe I am. I think it is. I think, like, the fact that DEMIAN is constantly making Sinclair think all these thoughts during puberty, I feel like that's definitely symbolic of something, you know? Of each other. Even. I just, like, uncapped my water and then recapped it. Why would I do that? Ahem. Hem. We will talk more about that another time, he said considerately. I see that you think more than you can express, but if that is so, then you also know that you have never lived and experienced all that you have thought, and that is not good. Only the thought that we live through and experience has any value. You know that your world of sanction was simply one half of the world, and yet you try to suppress the other half in you, as do the parsons and teachers. You will not succeed. No one succeeds who has once begun to think. This impressed me deeply. I guess. Sinclair wants to wear that scarf. Wrong version, but it's true spiritually. It is true spiritually. He is wanting to, like, step foot into the darker end of things, you know? Like, good job, guys. This book is great for media literacy, because it just kind of, like, splays things out for you. It leaves room for a lot of thought, but it also, like, says things pretty explicitly for you, so you can have that thought, you know? But, I almost shouted, there are horrible things which are really and actually forbidden. You can't deny that fact. And they are forbidden once for all, so we must renounce them. I know, of course, that there are such things as murder and all possible kinds of vice, but shall I then, simply because such things exist, go and become a criminal? Does he know? Does he know that he's going to actually do this in the future? No, he doesn't, which is so funny. How many pages are there? 78. Oh, we're almost there. We have like 6 pages left. That's crazy. Where are we? 78. We shan't be able to finish our discussion today, said Max in a milder tone. You must certainly not commit You must certainly not commit murder or rape, no. But you haven't yet reached that point where one can see what is permitted and what is really taboo. You have realized only a part of this truth. The remainder will come after. Rely on it. For instance, for the past year or so, you have had in you an instinct which is stronger than all the others and which is held to be taboo. The Greeks and many other people, on the contrary, made a sort of divinity out of that instinct and honored it by great celebrations. What is now taboo is therefore not eternally so. They can change. Today, everyone is permitted to sleep with a woman as soon as he has been with her to a parson and has gone through the ceremony of marriage. With other races, it is different, even today. For that reason, where are we? For that reason, each one of us must find out for himself what is permitted and what is forbidden. Forbidden, that is, to himself. You need never do anything that is forbidden and yet be a thorough rascal, and vice versa. It is really merely a question of convenience. Whoever is too lazy to think for himself and to constitute himself his own judge simply conforms to the taboos, whatever they happen to be. He has an easy time of it. Others realize they carry laws in themselves. For them, things are forbidden which every man of honor does daily. On the other hand, things are permitted them which are otherwise taboo. Everyone must stand up for himself. Suddenly, he seemed to regret having said so much, and broke off. I felt I could understand to a certain extent what his sentiment was. That is to say, however, agreeably he used to present his ideas, apparently in a cursory manner. He could on no account tolerate a conversation made simply for the sake of talking, as he once said. He realized in my case that, although my interest was genuine enough, I was too much inclined to look upon discussion as a game, too fond of clever talking. In short, I was lacking in perfect seriousness. You know what I just realized? It would be more fitting to have the background music be like some of the Kanto 3 music. He was locking in? He was locking in. Let's see. Let me like change this to the Kanto 3 music. Let's pass on. Maybe this one? There we go. That's there we go. Kanto 3 music. Can we play melee or copyright? I'd rather not, but I don't think it's like necessarily disallowed because I'm not monetized, but I'd rather not, just so I don't get into trouble with anything, you know? Every time I say I think of like freaking gnarly. Freaking gnarly. No. I can't say freaking or like, without thinking of Gnarly by Cat's Eye. It's such a brain disease. I can't get it out of my head. I hate it so much. I don't hate the song. I just hate constantly having it in my head. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Where's the thing? As I read again the words I have just written, perfect seriousness, another scene suddenly comes into my mind. The most impressive experience I have lived through with Max Damon in those still half-childlike times. Our confirmation classes were drawing to an end, and the closing lessons were devoted to the Last Supper. The clergyman thought this very important, and he took pains to make us feel something of the inspiration and the sacred character of his teaching. However, precisely on those last few lessons, thoughts were diverted to another object, to the person of my friend. Okay, Sinclair. Whatever you say, Sinclair. Looking forward to my confirmation, which was explained to us as being our solemn admission into the community of the church, the thought presented itself imperatively to me that the value of this half-year's religious instruction did not lie for me in what I had learned in class, but rather in Damian's presence and influence. It was not into the church that I was ready to be received, but into something else, into an order of ideas and personalities which surely existed somewhere or other on Earth, and of which I felt my friend was the representative or messenger. Sorry for like speed reading those. God, I never realized Kanto 3 songs hit this hard. What is it called? I think it's quite literally just called Sinclair Story Theme 1. I remember this one because I remember when I listened to this for the first time, I explicitly remember thinking, this is literally the entirety of Damian. Like, the flute in the background represents Cromer. The piano represents Sinclair, and like the strings represent Damian. If you listen to it closely enough, I'll like shut up for a second so you can like hear it. Yeah, that's Cromer in the background because the flute sounds kind of obtrusive, and like it's also kind of like, what's it called, whistle like. Because they both use like wind in order to produce their sounds. Meanwhile, and this violin part is supposed to be Damian because it like doesn't really pop up during the flute part at all. So it's supposed to be them like being opposites of each other. Not really opposites of each other, but you know what I mean. Like they're not with each other, right? And the piano is the main instrument, so that has to be Sinclair. And you'll notice that like there's like that little trill. So yeah, you can hear the flute came back once the violin went away. I don't even know if it's a violin, but it's some kind of string instrument with a bow. So yeah. Okay. that's my music ramble on why I think this specific theme is insane. But it'll also get kind of repetitive, so I might switch it to a different OST at some point. So, yep. Water. Yay. I need you to ramble about Music and Limbus so bad. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to ramble about Music and Limbus for a hot minute. But I do remember when Kanto 4 was going on, there was this one OST that I managed to spoil Kanto 4 for myself because I listened to it too hard. Impromptu musical analysis goes hard. Hell yeah, it does. Also, hi KV. Yeah, there's like this one part in Kanto 4. It played during like the star part, I think, and I was like, why does the star part sound like it's crying? Imagine my surprise a few streams later when like the crying thing popped up and I was like, oh my god, I spoiled Kanto 4 for myself. Yo, just arrived. What's happened so far? Hello, Huey. Right now we're like at the end of Sinclair's like school year. So far it's just been him and Damien talking and like Sinclair going like, the Bible. There's more that happened than that, but like plot wise it's mostly just been him and like Damien talking and Sinclair going the Bible and like describing Damien in very ways. I don't know how else to describe it. Just the ways he describes Damien are interesting and he does it a lot. Yeah, yaoi panic. Exactly, that's the best way to put it. Yaoi panic. I tried to repress this thought. In spite of everything, I earnestly intended to go through the ceremony of confirmation with a certain dignity, and the new notions I was forming seemed scarcely compatible with this. Yet do what I would, the idea was there, and gradually identified itself with the approaching religious ceremony. I was ready to celebrate it in a different fashion from the other confirmation candidates. For me, it would mean admission into a world of ideas, with which I had become acquainted through Damien. In those days, it happened that I had another discussion with him. It was just before a lesson. My friend was wrapped up in himself and took little pleasure in my talk, which was perhaps rather precocious and bombastic. We talk too much, he said with unwanted gravity. Wise speeches have no value at all, absolutely none. You only escape from yourself. To escape from yourself is a sin. You should be able to creep right into yourself like a tortoise. We entered the schoolroom immediately after. The lesson began. I took pains to listen, and Damien did not disturb me in my effort. After a while, I began to feel something peculiar at my side where his place was, a sort of emptiness or coolness or something like that, as if his seat had suddenly become vacant. The feeling became oppressive and I turned around. There I saw my friend sitting, upright in his customary attitude, but he looked quite different from usual. Something I did not know went out from him, enveloped him. I thought his eyes were closed, until I saw he held them open, but they were stiff as if gazing within or directed to an object a great way off. He sat there perfectly motionless. He seemed not to be breathing, and his mouth was as if carved out of wood or stone. His face was white, uniformly white as stone. His brown hair showed more signs of life than did any other feature. His hands lay before him on the desk, without life, as still as an inanimate object, like stones or fruit, white and motionless, yet not relaxed, but as if controlling the secret springs of a powerful life force. The sight made me tremble. He is dead, I thought. I almost said it out loud. But I knew he was not dead. Mesmerized, I hung on his look. My eyes were riveted to this white stone mask. I felt it was the real Damien. The Damien who was in the habit of walking and talking with me. That was only one side of him, a half. Damien who from time to time played a part, who accommodated himself to circumstances out of mere complacence. I'm tripping over my words. It's that part of the book where I start tripping over my words. No! But the real Damien looked like this, with just this look of stone, prehistorically old, like an animal, beautiful and cold, dead yet secretly full of fabulous life force. And around him this still emptiness, this infinite ethereal space, this lonely death. Now he had quite retired into himself, I felt with a shudder. Never had I been so isolated. I had no part in him. He was unattainable. He was further from me than if he had been on the most distant isle in the world. I scarcely understood why no one besides myself noticed it. I thought that everyone would have to remark him, that everyone would shudder, but no one gave him any attention. He sat like a picture, and, as I could not prevent myself from thinking, as stiff as a strange idol. A fly settled on his forehead, moved slowly down over his nose and lips. Not a muscle, not a nerve in his face twitched. He's literally just sitting there. He's literally just sitting there. And Sinclair is like, oh. Then again, this part is kind of freaky though. A fly like landing on his forehead and moving down. That is pretty freaky. Where? Where was he now? What was he thinking? What was he feeling? Was he in heaven or in hell? It was impossible for me to question him. When I saw him at the end of the list living and breathing again, when his glance met mine, was he as he formerly had been? Where did he come from? Where had he been? Where did he come from? Where did he go? Where did he come from? Max-Eye Joe. He seemed tired. His face had its normal color. His hands moved again, but his brown hair was lustreless and fatigued, as it were. In the days following, I practiced a new exercise in my bedroom several times. I sat stiffly on a chair, kept my eyes fixed, and held myself perfectly motionless. I waited to see how long I could maintain this attitude, and what the sensation would be like. However, I merely got very tired and suffered from a violent twitching of the eyelids. The confirmation took place soon after, of which no important recollections remained with me. Everything was now quite changed. Childhood fell about me in ruins. A whole page romanticizing chilling. Sinclair is about to look back on this in 5 years and have the biggest crash out of all time. Ironically, this book is written in like retrospect. The book's subtitle is literally what's it called? Or like something like The Recollection of Emile Sinclair, like The Boyhood of Emile Sinclair or something like that. So this is in fact like all written like as if he were looking back on this in life. So he probably did crash out about this multiple times, considering he crashed out about it so much that he decided to go to his own room and try and recreate the feeling. Like, he's definitely crashed out about all this. Everything was now quite changed. Childhood fell about me in ruins. My parents used to look at me with a certain embarrassment. My sisters had become quite strange in their conduct towards me. A disillusionment falsified and weakened the old sentiments and pleasures. The garden was without fragrance, the wood was no longer inviting, the world around me seemed like a clearance sale of old articles, insipid and without charm. Books were merely paper, music, and noise. The leaves fall thus from a tree in autumn. The tree feels as it not, rain drips on it, sun comes in frost. Some comes in frost, and the life in it recedes slowly into the narrowest and most inward recess. The tree is not dying, it is waiting. It was decided that after the holidays I should go to another school, leaving home for the first time. My mother meanwhile approached me with a special tenderness, a sort of preliminary goodbye, endeavoring to charm me with a love from which I should go with homesickness and unforgetfulness in my heart. Damien had gone away. I was alone. Yep. Chapter 4, Beatrice! Oh, next chapter is where it all goes to heck. Page 85. How long is this one? Probably around the same length as the rest, right? So I imagine it ends like roughly at 100. Actually, it's quite a bit longer than the other ones. No, it's only like a few pages longer. And so that's what's gonna be for next stream. So next stream will be the halfway point. Fun times. So yeah. I need to stop reading so damn fast because one, I trip over my words, two, we end up getting to points like this where I just totally like die. No, that's not the word I'm looking for. I majored in English. I should know my words, but I don't. By the way, this song loops really well, even though it's been playing like on loop for the past, I don't know, 10 minutes. It loops really well. It's kind of hard to, you can tell where it stops and ends, but it just like, it's smooth, you know? Yeah. I want to sleep to this song. It's a very good song. It is a very sleepable song, honestly, although it is kind of dramatic, so I don't know if it was necessarily sleepable, but it is a very peaceful, not really necessarily peaceful is probably the word I'm looking for either, but it's a good song. Anyways, so basically, to recreate what this chapter was basically just this. It was basically just this. Yep. None of this guy. Just these guys. Just them. If you wanted some advice on audiobook reading, I'd be more than happy to help. I think I'm good, because it's not like I'm necessarily audiobooking it. I'm just kind of like, you know, I'm just kind of vibing here. I'm just kind of sitting here reading the book out loud, which is like, I know that is what an audiobook is, but like, I'm not like looking to like be an audiobook artist or someone. I'm just here to read the book for the fun of it, and I just think it would be fun for other people to join in on reading the book with me, because I think it would be fun for Limbus Company fans to have media literacy, and unironically, I think The Stranger and DEMIAN are probably the best way to go about it. Especially DEMIAN, because it's a lot more explicit than in what it's trying to convey than The Stranger is, because it is so easy to misconstrue what is going on in The Stranger, apparently. We should do a The Stranger reading stream. I'm gonna see if there's like a copyright-free version of The Stranger. Let's see. I think there should be. There is! Oops, I just downloaded it on accident. Oopsie daisy. The Stranger. The Stranger. I did like down. Hold on. I think there's a copyright-free version of The Stranger out there, so media literacy in Project Moon, unheard of. Yeah, we need to fix that like badly, because it is a bit concerning about how bad it can get at times. Yeah, I guess we're just gonna like yap for the next 4 minutes, because I don't want to end a stream at 56 minutes, even though I swear that chapter was like a little longer, because it was like 30 pages. The other ones were like 20, so I think it's kind of whack that we finished so early. Yeah. Let's see, what did you guys think about the chapter? Because I personally think that is where the meat of like Sinclair and DEMIAN is, especially that horse scene. That was weird. Are y'all hoping for anyone for the free 3-star? I am so not caught up with Limbus Company. What do you mean free 3-star? But like, is it like season specific, or is it just like a free one? Because I don't think I'm like hoping for anyone in particular, to be honest. I like my units the way they are. They're pretty good. Oh, they're nerfing. Oh, bruh. Oh yeah, I heard that, because someone said earlier, like, I think it might have been you, Rupture is getting nerfed or something. They're nerfing Ego Sinclair. Oh, that's kind of funky. Huh. Don't know how I feel about that. And that's why I crashed out about Rupture. Huh. Nerf. I see. That's real awkward to think about. I should probably get more into the Limbus gameplay instead of actually just, like, hitting win rate all the time and, like, you know. People are really mad. Don't get on Twitter. Haven't there been, like, review bombs for Limbus Company again? Like, isn't that a thing that's been going on right now? Sorry, I'm, like, congested again. Yeah. Aren't they, like, that's a thing that's been going on, hasn't it? I don't even know what's going on in Limbus Company anymore. I'm here for the story, but then it gets kind of like whack, but then the IDs have story, and I'm like, they're exploding with 1,000,000 suns. Yep. Ooh. Just like the olden days. Yeehaw! I haven't pulled out a yeehaw since I was 17. What's wrong with me today? Water. I feel like I have to say water every time I drink water. It's like, I don't know. It's like instinctual. I was gonna say hopefully it gets resolved, but knowing, like, based on my experience, it's not gonna get resolved so easily. People are already really up in arms with this, it seems. Yeah, should I go on Twitter right now? Let's see. What'll happen if I go on twitter.com right now? Let's see. It's not that serious, to be honest, but kind of sad. I placed effort into Rupture. The thing is, why would they, like, nerf Rupture? Because it wasn't... I don't know, I swear Rupture was, like, really unpopular. Only for the nerf to come immediately? No, that's kind of sad. That's kind of terrible. Like, I swear Rupture was, like, one of the least popular status effects. Like, everyone was like, I hate Rupture. Rupture sucks. Make a bleed team, make a tremor team, make a sinking team. Never Rupture. Everyone was like Rupture? Really? That's what they choose to nerf? Like, okay. I guess. Oh. Kind of interesting. A really interesting choice, but I guess rupture lovers do exist and they're really mad about it. Yeah, we dragged that horse really far and beat it very, very deathly. That's not a phrase people use, but it's a phrase that I'm using. So, yeah. Yeah, let's see. Did I named the thing part 2 and not part 3. Oopsie daisy. I should change that. Rupture is really strong now with the haste, so they just killed Red Sheet Clear because it's bad design. Oh, funky. Let me like change the stream title before like actually ending, because that might be a good idea. Let's see. Ew, hearing myself. Ew, cringe. Damian reading, be scared. Part 3. Save. Yeah, Red Sheet was like a requirement for Rupture Comp. Oh. Maybe I should— is this a sign to get into team building actually and finally like lock in on my teams? And with Rupture finally being strong. Oh, so it's really bad timing is what I'm getting here. It's really bad timing for them to be nerfing Rupture, considering Rupture was unpopular and then it's now super popular. Ah yeah, Reverse Yuri. Hell yeah, welcome in. We did finish reading today's chapter. We're just kind of talking about the Rupture nerf in Limbus Company right now. Oopsie daisy. The nerf to Red Sheet kind of sad. Yeah, I would imagine so. If Rupture's finally getting somewhere and after like years of unpopularity, that is kind of L. That is kind of super L. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that because I'm not really a team composition person if I haven't made that clear. But yeah. Let's see. We have gone past an hour, so I think this would be an appropriate time to end. Yeah, thank you guys for coming in. One of my pages says it's getting canceled on Twitter. Yeah, I hear like we talked about this a little bit ago, but it's getting review bombed again because of like all the nerfs or something. It's kind of moral that the whole Rupture status was dependent on a random 2-star ID from season 2. Yeah, that is kind of extra L. And then like finally Rupture gets somewhere and then now it's just nerfed, and that's basically Rupture is just major L right now is what I'm getting from this entire conversation. I feel like I've been speaking in circles. But that's okay. Where were we? Yes. Ending. Thank you guys for coming in. Cancel the nerf. Cancel the nerf. That's definitely gonna work. Canceling gacha games always works. Yeah, this definitely won't backfire or anything like that. Haha, haha. Nerf the ringman himself. No. Yeah, don't try to cancel gacha games. This won't backfire. Trust. Yeah, nothing bad will happen. Yeah, nothing bad will happen. Anyways. Nerf Rena. Why would you nerf me? What did I do? Imagine say that in like the old, not Fortnite, Overwatch song. So the same tune as the old Overwatch song. Nerf Rena. I like how every time I see my name just like out there, I always shorten it down. Too smart, got a nerf. No, I'm not smart at all. I have no brain cells. What are you talking about? All I do is read books all day and like sing and like do funny audio things that don't even like sound good. Speaking of things that don't sound good, you guys want to hear the hero cover before? I know I said I wouldn't play copyright things. Actually, we're not gonna play the hero cover. I finished it. I just need to commission someone for it. What if I do that on stream right now? If suppose a nerf is to be coming. Yeah, what if I should like shut up before I accidentally start playing copyright music, because that would be kind of bad. I can play like 1 second. I can play the one. It's not even gonna be me singing. It's just one. No, we're not gonna do that. Post it on Discord? I could. The WAV file is too large for me to put on Discord, but I could like do the MP3 file. I could make an MP3 file. Yeah. By the way, guys, if you aren't on the Discord and you want to hear all of my shenanigans, all of my audio shenanigans, you should totally join. Wink. I can't wink. Wink. They need to make it not 2x talisman, and on non-talisman ID they only lost one turn whether or not it's 5+ talisman. I like your funny words. I like your funny words, funny word man. I commissioned my girlfriend to draw art of you. Let's see how well that goes. Oh my god, did you actually? That's kind of crazy. Thank you, question mark? But you didn't need to do that. I can't wait for Abraxas to appear so I can share my insane theories. I think that happens, what chapter does that happen in? Page 116? Chapter 5. That hasn't happened yet. It'll happen 2 weeks from now. Yeah, 2 weeks from now. Interesting. Yeah, remember what I said like 5 minutes ago we were gonna end and then we proceeded to not do that? That's kind of funny. We love procrastinating the what's it called? The ending. Abraxas to the Jade Ceiling. Is this like a Kanto 8 thing I don't know of yet? I'm so scared for Kanto 8. I still haven't even done my videos for the interbio. I need to finish that like so bad. Maybe I'll do it later today. Who is this Abraxas? Abraxas is like some kind of divine entity that's supposed to represent both good and bad. Well, my candle will be saved for another stream. See ya. We should probably end, but for real this time. Thank you guys for joining in, and thank you guys for like letting me yap for like the past 10 minutes to extend the time for no reason. Sinclair's Abraxas has not hatched yet. Sinclair is the ego waiting to be born. That's my theory. Why did I read that as ego? Is the egg waiting to be born? That's my theory anyways. That's a good theory. That is a good theory. I'm so excited for when Sinclair finally gets another Kanto, because like Kanto 3 left much to be desired, but like in a good way, in a really good way. So I'm excited for whatever happens to Sinclair, but that's besides the point. We are ending. Thank you guys for coming in. Let me look at the schedule for what we have next. I just realized I haven't posted the schedule on YouTube or Twitter. Okay. We're going to be playing Apollo Justice on Thursday, so the next 2 days are off just because tomorrow is trash day and I don't like streaming on trash day. And Wednesday I have something to do. So yeah, next stream is gonna be on Thursday. See you guys there. It's gonna be on Twitch though. Yeah. See you guys sometime later, maybe on Irium. If you guys have Irium. If you don't, then I'm sorry. This is a real USL. So yeah, okay. Bye. See you guys later. Bye bye. Wee.